I'm Susan Stevens, and I'm an adjunct professor and part-time faculty member in the Department of Family Studies and Gerontology at Mount St. Vincent University. I've been teaching university part-time since 1999, and I have marked hundreds of essays. In this video, I'm going to share my insight and advice to help you improve your essay writing. Whether you decide to pursue a graduate degree or you're going to launch your career when you finish your current degree, you need to be able to write well. Any career in human services will require that you write a lot, whether it's letters on behalf of your clients, running notes, or other documents in your client charts, or you may become involved in policy and write policy documents or PowerPoint presentations. These are just a few of the things you'll be writing in whatever job you take on. Investing the time and effort now to hone your writing skills will pay off in terms of better grades, and it will pay off later in your next job. So, what makes a great essay great? What's the difference between an A+ essay and a B essay or a C essay? That's what we're going to talk about throughout this video. Now, let's pretend you are a student in one of my classes, and I've given you all an assignment. And that assignment is to draw a picture of a person standing tall. One student hands in this drawing. Clearly, this student did not put much thought or effort into this drawing. It is somewhat human-like, but there's not a lot of detail. It's not very well done. Another student hands in this drawing. Obviously, a little more thought and effort than the first student, but not much. It's a little more human-like. There's a body, there's arms and legs and a head, but not a lot of detail. And why is there a stop sign? I didn't ask for a stop sign in the assignment. A third student hands in this drawing. Clearly, it's a person standing tall, and there is more effort and thought in this drawing. There's a little more detail. There's green shoes, blue pants, a red shirt. I'm not sure why there are balloons. They're very pretty and colorful, but balloons were not part of the assignment. A fourth student hands in this drawing. There's much more detail than any of the other drawings so far, and it's actually a pretty good depiction of a person standing tall. There's a fair bit of detail, although the face is unfinished, but overall, it's a very good drawing. And finally, a fifth student hands in this drawing. Now, don't read anything into my choice of pictures. I was limited by what was available in the Creative Commons to avoid copyright issues. But this drawing clearly took a fair bit of thought, study, and effort. It's very well done. There's lots of detail, good proportions, it's complete, and it's colorful. If I were grading these drawings, here's what I would give each student for their effort. Essays are graded in much the same way. Students who follow the assignment instructions, who stay on topic, who complete their research, they spend time thinking through the evidence, organizing their thoughts into a well thought out and planned essay structure, providing enough detail to give the professor a clear picture of what they've learned, will obviously do better. I cannot tell you how many essays I have marked that received an F. It was obvious the student didn't put much thought or effort into their work. They wrote something quickly that somewhat resembled the assignment, but not by much. So let's dig further into what makes an essay great. A great essay has a topic that aligns with the assignment. The essay then is actually on topic. It's focused. There isn't a lot of distraction or irrelevant information like the stop sign or the balloons in the drawing example. A great essay is well organized and well written. It is written using good grammar and proper spelling. The information used to create the essay is mostly from academic sources and other credible, relevant sources. And if you are in my courses, your essay follows APA guidelines. I've got another video on APA 7th edition guidelines. If that's something that you struggle with, you may want to check that out. But today, in this video, we're going to deconstruct a published essay to show you how to write an essay that is on topic, well organized, and well written. What is essay structure? Essay structure is how you organize your thoughts and statements and lay them out for others to read. You start with an introduction, which leads from the general to the specific context of your topic. Then you construct paragraphs to build on each paragraph, link to the next one, building support for your thesis statement. This is the body of your essay. Then finally, you summarize your key points and findings and discuss why they are important. In other words, you link your topic to the bigger picture. Now, there are many types of academic essays. This structure is a general one, and it will serve you well for many different types of assignments, but not all. Be sure to understand your professor's specific assignment instructions and expectations for the essays they assign. This is what a well-structured essay looks like. You start big and broad to give the context. You introduce your topic, and then you end with a sentence or two laying out what the reader will encounter in the rest of your essay. This last piece, the roadmap, is the piece most students miss. It is among the most common errors I see in essays. In the body, you lay out your argument. Think of the paragraphs like bricks you are laying to build a wall. Each paragraph is connected to the next. They should flow. Here is where you share the evidence you have found and your analysis of it. Be sure to cite your evidence. This is very important. Making claims, providing information, and not including a citation about the source of that information is another common mistake that I see. Finally, your conclusions should summarize succinctly your main points, state your conclusion, what you know now to be true, and discuss implications for the future. Another common mistake I see is finding new information in the conclusion. Never introduce new thoughts or information in your conclusion. That information should appear in the body of your essay. Okay, so let's take a real paper that's been published in the academic journals and dissect it. This is an excellent paper about older adults who lack capacity to make their own decisions and have no one to make those decisions for them. This part in red, this is the introduction. The whole purpose of your introduction is to hook your reader, much like the first few seconds of a movie or a video. You want them to know what the paper is all about. You give them some context, you tell them what the big picture is, and then link this to your topic. The big picture should give them a sense of why your essay topic is important and make them want to read your paper. You can also give them some sense of the evidence you have that should be of interest to them as well. Once you've painted the big picture, tell the reader what your specific area of focus is going to be. This is the topic of your paper. You may want to include a key definition or two. Then finally, in the last one or two sentences, you should provide a map for the rest of your paper. This is for you and your reader to follow. It's the roadway to your destination, which is the conclusion of your essay. This is what a great introduction looks like. It starts big and broad, it narrows to your topic, then it narrows again to what lies ahead in your paper. Now, let's take the introduction from the unbefriended older adults essay and see what this looks like. The first 4 sentences paint the big picture. I pulled the citations out just to make it easier to read. So why should I read this essay? Why is it important? Well, worldwide, there are over 900 million people over the age of 60. With old age often comes dementia or other diseases that affect an older person's ability to make decisions. Some people have family and friends to help them with this. That's the big, broad context. Now they narrow it to the topic. Not all older people have someone who can step in and make decisions for them when they can't make their own decisions. There are lots of reasons for this. They then define unbefriended adults. This is a key definition for the essay. These unbefriended adults need a legal guardian to make their decisions. This is the topic of this paper. Then finally, the roadmap. Here, the authors clearly tell us what this article is about and what we can expect to read on the rest of the paper. The results of the literature review about unbefriended adults. That's what they're going to tell us about. In my view, this is an A+ introduction. Here's another way to look at this introduction. Here's the big picture, followed by the topic in the middle, and notice that it's the larger part of the introduction. And then here's the roadmap at the end. In just 323 words, or about 8% of the entire essay, they've told us about the big picture, why we need to pay attention to this topic. They introduce the topic, and then they tell us what to expect in the rest of the paper. Now, the body is the most important part of your essay. Here you present the evidence you have collected, you present your analysis of it, and you build towards your conclusion. It should consist of coherent paragraphs that flow in the direction you laid out in the last sentence or two of your introduction. In other words, the body of your essay should follow the roadmap that you laid out earlier in the essay. A coherent paragraph is one that is organized around a theme or a topic. Each paragraph should build on the previous one, and it should lead into the next paragraph. It's often helpful to use subtitles in your essay. And you can see they've done this with this particular essay. They help keep you and your reader on track, and they should follow the roadmap in your introduction. That's the piece I've circled here in red. So you can see the roadmap consists of talking about public guardianship, which the authors do in two parts here. And then they go on to say they're going to discuss the methods, which you can see here they do following the discussion about guardianship. Here, the body, it's the bulk of the essay. It's about 86% of the essay when we look at the total word count. Now, there's no set percentage, and it will vary, but essentially the body of your essay should contain the bulk of your writing. Your conclusion is where you sum up all your main findings. These are the most important points of your essay. In concluding your essay, you do the reverse of what you did in your introduction. In your introduction, you start with the big picture and you narrow down. In your conclusion, you start with the narrow findings and then you go big and broad. You take your findings and connect them to the larger picture or context. You want to leave the reader understanding why your findings are important and what should or could be done about them. One common mistake students make is including new information in their conclusion. Don't do that. If you didn't already include this information in the body of your essay, don't put it in your conclusion. This is what a good conclusion looks like. Again, present your key findings, discuss their implications, and in your final thought, connect them to the bigger picture. So let's look at how the authors of the Unbefriended Older Adults essay did this. Here the authors present their main findings. There is limited literature about unbefriended older adults. Most of what they did find was from the United States. Here are the implications. These gaps are concerning. This is a group of vulnerable people. The numbers will only increase as the population continues to age. And the implications are that not having someone to make decisions for them may have detrimental impacts on their health. And if we don't know about this, we may not change our systems to best serve this group of people. Their final thought is a compelling one. This is one of the most vulnerable groups of people, and we have no population level data about them in Canada. This is indeed alarming. They have made a strong case for more research in this area. So this is what the conclusion looks like in the essay itself. The key findings come first. You can see them here, followed by the implications, and then the final thought that they want us to walk away with. Notice that the conclusion is just 114 words, which is about 3% of the total word count. Now, sometimes you may be required to write an abstract. This is a brief summary of the entire essay. I find it best to write my abstracts after I have written the entire essay, and it's in final format, or close to it. You want to do 4 things in your abstract. First of all, you want to introduce the topic in just the first sentence or so. You want to explain the purpose of the essay, and you want to present your key findings. And then you want to share the implications and any further action needed. Remember to keep it brief. Also remember your abstract is not your introduction. These are 2 very different elements of your essay. Here's the abstract for this essay. You can see it is just 130 words, or about 3% of the entire word count. Let's take it apart. So here are the pieces. They introduce the topic very succinctly in just 1 line. They then speak directly to the purpose of the essay. Then in just 4 sentences, they present their main findings. And finally, in 1 sentence, they sum up the implications and what action is needed. And here's what it looks like in the essay itself. It's short, it's to the point. Here's the topic, here's the purpose, here are the findings, and then here's the final thought. Here's the implications. Again, just 130 words, very short and to the point. When you're writing an essay, while incredibly important, the introduction and the conclusion need to be in proportion to the entire essay. If you're writing a 2,000-word essay, for example, your introduction shouldn't be much more than about 250 words, and your conclusion about the same or maybe a little less. There is no exact formula, but keep in mind, if you keep your introduction somewhere around 10 to 15% of the total word count and the conclusion in the same range or a little less, you should do well. And here's the proportions of these components of this essay we've been looking at. Now, before we wrap up, let's talk a little bit about references. I often set a specific number of academic references I expect students to find and use in their essays. Having sufficient evidence is important if you want to write a great essay. When we look at this essay about unbefriended older adults, there are a total of 52 references. 43 are academic references. That's 83% of the total. And there are 9 non-academic references. So what's an academic reference? This is a common mistake, again, that I often see students making. They don't understand what an academic reference is. Academic sources should be the majority of your evidence. So what are they? Take a look at this list of 7 from the essay we've been analyzing. Can you tell which ones are the academic references? There are 5, and here they are. Academic references are primarily articles you find in peer-reviewed academic journals. You might find an unpublished doctoral thesis that you use, or maybe a textbook or 2, but for your purposes, most of your academic evidence will come from peer-reviewed academic journals. There are 2 non-academic references in this list, and I've circled them here in red. These are what we often refer to as gray literature. In this case, they're reports that are published or were published by the Alzheimer's Society in Canada and the Alzheimer's Society in the United Kingdom. Both are not-for-profit organizations. These reports are important sources of information. Along with government reports and news media reports, they may be helpful depending on your topic and the type of essay that you're writing. But these kinds of sources of information should not be the bulk of your evidence. The bulk of your evidence should come from the academic research in academic journals. Here's a few more tips to help you find the best evidence for your essays. Really dig into the academic peer-reviewed journals for your evidence. When you find a relevant article, look at the references in it to find more that are relevant for your topic. Make sure you also incorporate relevant course content. You need to do independent research, but in my classes, I also want to see you utilize the readings and the course content that we've been covering in the class. This demonstrates your learning of course content. Also, use primary sources as much as possible. Now, what do I mean by that? If you find a news story online about a research study that's relevant to your topic, don't reference the media story. Go and find the actual research study in the academic literature and cite it directly. This is the primary source. The news article is considered a secondary source. Make sure you do incorporate other information beyond academic sources, as long as they're relevant and they don't make up the majority of your evidence. I've put a few examples here on the screen of other types of information that, again, may be relevant to your essay depending on your topic and depending on your assignment. Your research, your analysis, this will all be lost if your writing is poor. So, follow good essay structure as we've been discussing in this video. Organize your essay into an introduction, body, and conclusion. Use good grammar. If this is a challenge for you, get help. I often see run-on sentences or incomplete sentences in essays. These mistakes make it harder to understand the points you're trying to make. Also, make sure you have no spelling mistakes. There's really no excuse, in my view, for spelling errors, given the spell check features in word processing software. Also, make sure you reference your evidence. Cite direct quotations and cite your paraphrasing as well. Don't risk committing plagiarism. That is such a serious academic offense, and you want no part of it. If you need help with this, watch my other video about APA guidelines. A few more tips for good writing. Write as concisely as you can. Be economical in your words. Don't repeat the same information over and over in your essay. Try not to include extraneous information. In other words, don't include information that's not relevant to your topic. Don't address the audience directly. By that I mean avoid writing things like, "You should be interested in this topic because," but rather write something like, "This topic is important because." Sometimes students include all kinds of questions in their paragraphs. You may want to occasionally pose a question to the reader, but more often you should write in statements. And also, please do not use slang in your essays. Don't write things like, "This is a way big problem," or "These guys need to do something about this freaking problem." Also, try to avoid using overly dramatic, emotional language like, "This is just downright awful," or "This is a terrible horror." You can make strong points without using slang or overly emotional language. And finally, just a couple more tips. Read and reread the assignment instructions. If you are unsure about them, ask and get some advice. You don't want to spend a lot of time and effort on an essay only to have it returned with an F because you misunderstood the assignment. Pick your topic early and start working on your paper early. Try not to leave everything to the last minute. Begin by writing an outline. Map out where you think the paper will go. Then start your research. In fact, sometimes I find it helpful to reverse those two and actually start researching and reading and then draft an outline. So figure out what works best for you. Write your paper or parts of it, put it aside, then come back to it. Don't try to sit down and write a single final version in one go. And then after you have your paper close to done, write your abstract. Sometimes it's really helpful to finish the paper, put it aside for a day or two, and then come back to it and write your abstract. And finally, if you're in my class, you need to follow APA format. This is the style guide that we require in our department. Don't lose unnecessary points by not complying with APA. And also, it's just so much easier to read and mark a paper that's well written and well formatted. Errors of all kinds do detract from your work, so work to avoid them. The reason we have student evaluation methods like essays is for you to demonstrate to me what you've learned and for me to give you feedback on your comprehension and to point out ways you can improve your knowledge and skills going forward. Writing a great essay comes with practice. The more you put into your assignments and the more of them you do, the better you will become at them. Review the feedback you receive from your professor and incorporate it into your next assignment. If you don't fully understand the feedback or you can't read the writing, ask them about it. I am always delighted when students want to talk about the feedback I give them. I want you to communicate and write well. These skills will not only serve you well in your academic career, but I promise you they will also serve you well in your professional career and in other parts of your personal life. Thanks for watching this video. I hope I have offered something of value to you. For my students at the Mount, please feel free to connect with me at any point to talk about your assignments, your essays, or anything in this video. And if you have suggestions about future videos I can make that will be helpful to you to help you be more successful in your studies, I would be happy to do that. Take care, everybody, and all the best.